Utility Eskom says it's under no illusion that it will recover the full 4 billion rand it's trying to recoup from those accused of corruption and state capture. Spokesperson Sikonathi Mantshantsha says over the past 5 years, much of that money has been spirited away and hidden in places they may never be able to find. Eskom and the Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, have approached the High Court to recoup 3.8 billion rand from former Eskom board members, executives, members of the Gupta family and their associates. To speak more about this, we're joined by Chris Yelland, who's an energy specialist, and Sabelo Skiti, an investigative reporter for the Mail and Guardian. A very good evening to you both, and thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Yelland, let me start with you. Eskom says it will get more than it would cost them to prosecute the matter. Does that imply that it does not have a watertight case?
No, I don't think so at all. It's obviously done an investigation together with the Special Investigations Unit, which, as you know, is the Forensic and Litigation Department of the state. And they have concluded that they have a case, a civil case, which they're pursuing to recover as much as they can. So I think, they might even pursue this even if there was slim chances of recovering the money, in part to give out a very strong signal that people will be held accountable for their actions and that they cannot just simply turn a blind eye to clearly fraudulent scams that have taken place over the years.
So let's talk about that distinction between a civil and a criminal case, one seemingly more viable at the moment than the other. But what is the distinct difference between the two strategies? Why the former, not the latter?
Well, I think Eskom has been waiting a long time for a criminal case to be opened and prosecuted by the National Prosecuting Authority, but this hasn't been forthcoming. I think it's a symptom of the depletion of the resources and capability of the NP, as well as the volume of cases before it at the moment, and they just simply have been gutted in terms of their capability over the years and seem to be incapable of bringing a criminal case forward. It's not just this case that they haven't brought forward, but many, many, many other cases that would seem clear-cut have not been brought forward. So I think Eskom is pursuing the civil case. Obviously, it would like to recover some money. It would like to send a strong signal of, that it's going to hold people accountable. The bar for for a successful civil case is lower than a criminal case. It only has to be proved beyond proved on the balance of probabilities, whereas a criminal case is much more arduous. So I think they're proceeding because they think it's worth it today.
Okay, we'll get to whether or not there's respite elsewhere. Mr. Skiti, so among the defendants are former Eskom Group CEO Brian Molefe, the former Chief Financial Officer Anuj Singh, the Power Utilities former Head of Generation Machela Koko, as well as the Gupta brothers Rajesh Atul and Ajay. So what has been their alleged respective roles in this saga?
Evening to evening to the viewers. So those summons that Eskom says they had filed with the courts, they've yet to make it public. A couple of the people that I did reach out to have also said they've not been served yet by Eskom, so they haven't the foggiest what is going on. But if you look at the makeup of the people that are there, one can gain a sort of idea of where where in the timeline of malfeasance at Eskom some of this stuff dates to. So one for instance would be the Optimum Core Holdings transfer from Glencore to the Gupta family owned Tegeta. There was a 1.6 billion rand guarantee that was given by Eskom in December of 2015, a month before that transaction was concluded in Zurich. There was also a 568 million rand prepayment that was given to Tegeta by Eskom in April of 2016. That prepayment was quite instrumental because at that same time, on the same day actually, the Guptas were basically 600 million rand short. Finance that they were hoping was going to come through from RMB, if I recall, sort of fell through at the last minute, and they needed money very fast.
And I want us to get to that prepayment in just a moment, but I want to talk about the summonses which you've mentioned. Machela Koko has been the first to respond. He said previous summonses issued in November of 2017, obviously not by Eskom, have failed to yield any results. So why was the Helen Suzman Foundation and Magda Wieska unsuccessful?
Look, I mean, it's hard to tell. And I mean, looking at what Eskom has done, for instance, together with the SIU, I'm also a little bit apprehensive as to whether, this is, the final list of people, because there's a number of people that are missing, which were key in some of these, incidents that I think this money could relate to.
Such as who?
For instance, one can't help but wonder why. So, for one, I mean, you would say the name of Zetemba Khoza, who was the former chair at Eskom at some stage, and is well known to have been working in concert with forces that were working, with the Guptas. You've got civil servants who worked within the Department of Energy at the time when, Eskom sent a proposal to the department to say we need permission to give a 1.6 billion rand prepayment to Tegeta that would have allowed them, to actually take part in that transaction. You've got a number of other key individuals, especially non-executive directors, who all took that round-robin decision to give the 600 million rand prepayment. Okay. They should be held liable for actually acceding to the request to make the prepayment, because there were absolutely no grounds on which to do it.
Mr. Yelland, Mr. Koko says that there's no case to answer for, because the deal that he signed, the prepayment for coal in favor of the Gupta's mine, I think it was a value of up to 659 million rand, that the prepayment of coal was nothing unusual. So was it, or is it highly irregular or illegal? Because the word possibly seems to be a prefix to when people speak about the nature of what happened.
Well, I think if you go and have a look at the interview that was done on carte blanche with every governor, at first Mr. Koko said this was extremely unusual and denied it, and said that this was never could have happened, or was not a normal practice. But the moment that he was exposed, changed completely, and he tried is quite normal. And other executives at Eskom said the same. Of course, it's not normal at all. And the funny thing about this whole process, this whole scam, if I may explain it as that, is that Eskom itself, through these executives, actually facilitated this deal to make it happen. And within 6 months after facilitating this deal, and there was no doubt that it was going to that the new owners could not deliver on the quality, on the quantity of the coal. They couldn't do it profitably. If Glencore couldn't do it profitably, I can assure you there's no way that the Guptas could have done it profitably. Glencore is a global coal company, and they're long in the game. And if they can't make it work, why on earth could the Guptas? But Eskom insisted on making it happen, and it did happen. And soon after it did happen, Tegeta started selling its rights to the Richards Bay coal terminal, basically an asset stripping organization, before declaring going into voluntary business rescue, leaving Eskom in the lurch, leaving customers in the lurch, facilitating load shedding. It was one gigantic scam.
Mr. Skiti, I need to ask this question. You mentioned earlier on there's some characters missing from the script. Now, this prepayment to the deal was reportedly signed after an alleged late-night tender committee meeting, signing very cloak and dagger. Give us some of the details of what happened, or what is reported to have happened to facilitate this.
Well, I think from what we know, and I think from what we've seen in the emails, so after the whole meeting takes place, then a round robin, voting by the board, takes place in the sense that, an email is sent out, the proposal is put, board members would either vote yay or nay on it. And within 2 hours of that having been done, the money was, out of Eskom's bank account. I mean, it was amazing. You would never see anything like that anywhere, in state procurement, where such a large amount of money, decision be done in the space of 1 day, basically.
So we are running out of... Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So, gentlemen, I'd ask you to please be brief in both your answers. Mr. Yelland, the Guptas have fled the country, and it seems that there's no prospects of ever seeing them in South African courts. Does that leave the other characters in the saga open to being pursued as facilitators for the alleged state capture?
I think the others will be pursued. I'm not sure how the Guptas will be pursued. As you say, Mr. Coco has come on radio today saying that, that there's absolutely nothing on him. Well, I'm sure he will get his day in court. He will be able to present his evidence both in the papers and in court itself. He has no need to fear that he will not be given an opportunity to make his defense. The decision about his innocence, I mean, it's obvious that he's going to claim his innocence now. Okay, so but the decision will be made by a judge.
So, Mr. Skiti, let's follow that train of thought. So we know that the State Capture Commission is sitting. Could that be possible respite for Eskom in order to recoup or prove guilt? What is your prediction on how this will all end, if indeed Mr. Koko says there's nothing to nail them on?
Look, I think from what we've even just heard, and I mean, it's a drop in the ocean compared to what's still to come, I believe, out in the courts. But from what we've seen now, this definitely is a case to answer. And Eskom stands a good chance, I think, in recovering some of the money, definitely not all. And my only worry is that as the Guptas are out of the country, a lot of that money, unfortunately, has left with them.
All right, thank you so much to you both. Chris Yelland, Energy Specialist, and Sabelo Skiti, Investigative Reporter for the Mail and Guardian. We're going to take a break. Do stay with us.